Moon, you're toxic.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're going to be giving news updates to a couple of games. The first thing I want to talk about, however, is the release date of GTA 6 and how it seems that that game will not be moving. This game has been delayed, but now it is standing firm in November. There was one game that went viral, Barbie Rewind, launching November 12th, because this game is so far the only game to be competing with GTA in that November time slot. All other games are releasing all the way up until October and then stopping, except for Barbie Rewind, Devolver has a game, and a Godzilla game. This is just crazy how much people are respecting GTA and is staying out of the way of it. It's good that Tekken is kind of getting the game back in shape, but then also has that huge reveal coming later on. So even when the players leave to go play GTA, they have a reason to come back. And if the balancing is in line leading up to that point, that's more of a reason to return. A couple of more things I want to point out. One, God of War. I'm very excited about that game. I made a couple of videos about it. I probably will cover it once we get more information as well. But that game is seemingly releasing in 2027. For Virtual Fighter Crossroads, we have a screenshot here. This is fan-made, showing how many characters could be on the roster. They gave us a look at 2 characters and someone filled in the gaps with many others, and 16 so far. You guys let me know how many characters is normally on a Virtual Fighter roster. I know Tekken goes all out with having 32. If they started off with a 16 character roster, would that be underwhelming or would that be just right? Now, as for Tekken with Harada, recently he gave a clarification that some of the people we were assuming is still at the company is no longer at the company. That being Nikatsu, we know he left. Nakabayashi also now left, according to Harada. And then something that was confusing a lot of people is that he said Mishima Star, because he lists those 3 names and then he proceeds to go on in the very next sentence saying their final works they delivered before leaving the company. I even saw FDX saying, wait, does that include Mishima Star? And for those of you who don't know, Mishima Star is the person who kind of is in charge of like day-to-day work on the balancing. And this is the reason why, you know, he's a Mishima main, he's a Kazuya main. This is why Kazuya has pretty much stayed intact and didn't lose his identity when so many other characters did. There's the Yoshimitsu main who's very high up in the balancing team as well. This is why Yoshimitsu, once again, it didn't lose his identity when a lot of characters have, because some of the developers, it's their job to work with these characters, but then some other characters, they really have like a passion and a knowledge and an understanding for. So we'll have to figure out over time whether or not Mishima Star is still there. It's kind of unclear with the way that Harada typed this out. Harada also put out another lengthy tweet just talking about why game development could take so long, how much actually goes into getting an update to the players, and all of this talking from Harada about Tekken motivated the Tekken leaders to speak up on the game. You have one person who was asking them, will you give any updates on DLCs or story or anything of that nature? And Yasuda, who is the chief producer of Tekken 8 currently, says, thank you for your interest in story. Unfortunately, I do not comment on future update plans on social media. And then this is the real bombshell that Yasuda drops. Someone was asking him, will you give an update on who is leading the game? Nikatsu gone, no one knows who's in charge. And Yasuda says, thank you for your interest in the Tekken project. We have no plans to discuss who holds which position within the development team. We hope you continue to enjoy Tekken 8. This is kind of the finality of this conversation about who is in charge of Tekken 8. They honestly are not going to tell us, and it seems like they're just going to coast, because if you think about it, they only have like a year and a half left of season 3, and if they decide to do season 4, so them going all into the details of who's doing this, who's doing that, as long as they have the people there who can create the characters and create the balancing, they should be skilled enough to do the job on their own with a little bit of guidance. Michael Murray is still there as well. So we won't really see any major overhauls to how Tekken operate until the next game, so we could dig into the credits of that. So as we looked at Street Fighter 6, things got a little bit crazy over there. They revealed 4 characters and the player base was not happy. Obviously, people love Tifa. She was a big talking point for a very long time, but the other characters people were not so interested in. The Steam reviews for that game is getting hit a little bit. It's not a review bomb, but it's getting hit a little bit. That game usually sits at like a very positive when it comes to the Steam reviews, but for the first time ever that I've seen, they are at mixed. And it's mostly because people are disappointed that it's 3 new characters and no returning characters. Largely, people were saying, where is Vega? You have the new Street Fighter movie that's coming in mere months. So why wouldn't they do some cross promotion where like people go and watch the movie? You have Balrog played by 50 Cent, and then not to capitalize on that end game just seems like a little weird. So I don't know what they were thinking putting. Basically, I seen a post that had like 6 million views saying, why would they put 3 World Hub characters on the DLC? I'm not buying that. But also, while I was in the process of making this video, Street Fighter 6 made an announcement. That being that they have now officially sold 7 million copies. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mortal Kombat 1 sold 8 million copies a couple of months ago. Tekken 8, they have not announced how many copies they have sold since launch. So we have still been thinking about this 3 million number. They most certainly are past that by now with just how we entered season 2. Now we're at season 3. Usual had a massive boost of sales, but for some reason the Tekken developers are not announcing how many units they have sold. But Street Fighter, they hit 7 million. So with all of the backlash that they've gotten for 3 new characters, I personally don't think it will hurt them too much. Street Fighter 6 has done a lot of weird things with like tournaments and just rulings, and somehow they still managed to get more players because of it. So I'm not going to say that they're dead or that they're screwed, because they've somehow managed to get more players while also doing what the players don't want. But 7 million copies is massive regardless. And with Tekken and Street Fighter going head to head for so long, of course people were starting to debate whether or not which game won. I saw some people saying the DLC wars, who won the DLC wars. And honestly, I think Tekken is doing a pretty good job now. Of course, like as you can see with Sejam, he says, rip Tekken fans, Street Fighter got Tifa. So you can see that as a huge blow. But then also I've seen so many people who out of nowhere was like saying, they were saying like, screw Tifa, we got Yujiro, we got Baki. And it's cool to see Tekken players have that confidence, have that cockiness back, because before Yujiro was announced, the game was looking real grim, real bleak. When you look at the Steam charts over the lifespan of the game, you can see the differences between these two franchises, where Tekken 8 has an all-time peak at the start of the game, and it drops down to like a low level where it's kind of operating at. Even though Kunimitsu is a great update and she brings a lot more excitement than most of the other characters, still operating at that low level. And then as for Street Fighter, their Steam count is doing something that is practically never done in all of gaming, where characters like Akuma, characters like Alex, and then even Ingrid are breaking the record over and over and over again. So I'm interested to see how their player base shakes up with this new lineup of characters, because they were cooking with the previous seasons. But 3 new characters, Tifa, will Tifa carry them the whole way through? We'll have to figure it out. Now, one thing that happened on Maximilian's stream is that the Final Fantasy developers showed up and they were talking a little bit about her inclusion in Street Fighter and just many other things. But one thing that was said that captured a lot of people's attention, and I'll go ahead and read it from my tweet. Final Fantasy director told Maximilian that other gaming companies requested Tifa Lockhart, but all offers was declined because they didn't want to just accept any offers, as Tifa is special. Her guest character appearance will be a one-off. Players believe this tweet from Harada is evidence Tekken 8 was one of the games whose offer was declined, and it shows a tweet from 2024 where Harada was responding to someone saying, how do you unlock Tifa? He told that person, if you want to unlock Tifa, basically go to the guys who make that game and convince them to do so. So this is what kind of is changing people's minds, like about the whole Tifa thing, because we thought that they just chose Clive because that's what they told us. They told us they just chose Clive and that was the end of it. But it seems like the developers are leaving out more of the story, because Harada, as we know in the past, with Baki, players requested Baki and Harada responded to that on Twitter, and then 6 years later, after doing research like his tweet says, the character is now coming. And then even with another highly requested thing like Waffle House, we know that Harada just recently said that he contacted Waffle House 3 times and didn't get a response. And he even has a quote saying maybe they think the game is too violent because they don't want to associate with a fighting game. So in those 2 instances, when Harada responded publicly to players' requests, he then took those requests to try to like get it to happen in the game. And when it makes sense that he would do the same exact thing with Tifa. So basically what I'm saying is that the developers seem to have wanted to get Tifa. The Final Fantasy developers told them no. And then the Tekken developers was probably like, okay, well, we want something Final Fantasy related. Our players will love it. And then that's when they brought up Clive, the new game that was releasing at the time. And this is where Nikatu's story comes in, where he's talking about how he went to the website, looked at the website, saw that his story lined up with Jin. There was a lot of similarities there with Tekken, and he decided to do it. It seems like that's more of a real story if you take into consideration what the Final Fantasy developers said and what the Tekken developers also said in the past. Lastly, Tekken Warehouse discovered this thing about Tekken 8 Season 4. I'll go ahead and read it. They left a placeholder image on Season 4 pass, the same way that you have Season 3 where you can see it on the left side with Kunimitsu, Bob, and just all the Season 4 stuff. They have a placeholder for Season 4. Now, is this a confirmation of Season 4? I personally already think Season 4 is confirmed because Harada said before leaving the company that Kunimitsu and Miguel are very likely to show up. He emphasized Miguel over Kunimitsu, so the fact that Kunimitsu showed up before then, it seems like he was alluding to Season 4 right before he left. And with this placeholder thing appearing, we've seen this happen in different ways in past seasons where we get a glimpse at Season 2 through like Unreal Engine editors this, and then it shows up. So I think the Season 4 is probably likely to happen, but we won't use the confirmed or guaranteed word until some time passes and we see how everything shapes out. But that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe, and bye-bye.